Ada for refusing to give my niece a job referral. I am a senior software engineer and work at a local software shop. We aren't super big, but we are profitable and make a B2B SaaS web app. It is a small company, and everyone knows each other really well. I was recently having dinner with my sister, whose daughter graduated in CS 2 years ago and was a junior programmer. She worked for iRobot but got laid off recently. We were talking about tech-related topics while we were having dinner, and she seemed like someone passionate about the industry. So I mentioned that there were openings at my workplace. She then inquired about job referrals. Since we never really worked together, I told her I could do so, but I'd like to ask her a question to gauge her knowledge, and would only refer her if she passed. I asked her a problem I knew of the top of my head on dynamic programming to use CS concepts to maximize the amount of coins by opening boxes, which is quite similar to a popular problem on bursting balloons on LeetCode. She failed to produce an efficient answer within 45 minutes, and only finally got it after an hour and a half after a hint, so I said I could not refer her, but she was free to apply on her own. My sister is now upset at me and called me an asshole, and said I should still try to help her, and that it was unfair to test her on the spot. The thing is, I don't want to take any risks, as if I did refer her, she would probably get hired, as our interviews are very easy and almost all refereed candidates get hired. But then if she performed badly after being refereed, it would reflect really badly on me. I know the question I asked is not related to the job, but I still think it is a good way to test one's intelligence. Welcome to /am I the asshole. Please view our voting guide here, reddit.com/amtheasshole/wiki, ffwikiwhat.29 with these acronyms, but 3F, what do they mean 3F? And remember to use only one judgment in your comment. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I refused to give my niece a referral for a job at my workplace, as I never worked with her, and she failed a test I gave her. This might make me an asshole since she was laid off and needs a new job. Help keep the sub engaging. Don't downvote assholes. Do upvote interesting posts. Click here for our rules, wish.reddit.com/nthasshole about/rules, and click here for our FAQ.reddit.com/amitheasshole wiki edit announcements. Follow the link above to learn more. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit, reddit.com/message-compose/anthasshole if you have any questions or concerns. Contest mode is 1.5 hours long on this post. YTA. You could have referred her by saying, my niece has a CS degree and needs a job, but I've never worked with her, so I don't know her CS capabilities. However, some of her other fine qualities are XYZ. In fact, you can still do this, if you know you want a positive ongoing relationship with your sister and her family. Yes, exactly. Besides, there's more than one type of reference. Yes, that correct. For instance, there's such a thing as a character reference, which simple speaks to her as a person in general. Then to add to that, there's a credentials reference attesting to her CS degree. So you see, there's a few kind and helpful things you can say without stating anything that you feel would look poorly upon you, lest she fail. Heck, she tried for an 1.5 to solve/answer you question, so she doesn't give up easily. So you could say she is tenacious in character and has a CS degree. There's two things right there. It's better than that. She did answer the question, but according to OP, it was a suboptimal solution. Yeah, right? Well, hard to believe that an uncle can't even give a niece a character reference. Hey bud, if you're as good at your job as you expect her to be, you shouldn't worry about how well she'll perform her duties reflecting on you, because you must be irreplaceable, and the company and your superiors will know that. I howled with laughter reading this, while singing Beyonce in my head. In no fucking world I'd accept a NTA judgment here. I'm scrolling through comments, but I'm hoping for a near unanimous judgment. This is the best answer. The referral doesn't have to be about her professional experience. It could just be about her being a smart kid who is a quick learner and has the CS background to meet the qualifications. Having a good attitude and ability to learn on the job is what most employers are looking for in entry-level positions. Exactly. I've been in similar situations and I offered an introduction, not a referral. I made it clear to the friend and the person hiring that I had not worked with them before. Sheesh, it isn't difficult to give someone an introduction. YTA, that's what I don't get. There's different kinds of references, professional and personal. Personal references won't guarantee you a job in the same way professional references might. But it's a big plus to have a person with a related career vouch for essentially your personality, how you carry yourself. The only way I could see OP not wanting to provide one of those is if the niece is genuinely a bad person or has unfavorable traits that would impact her work performance. Yet OP doesn't mention any of this. I think niece would be dodging a bullet by missing out on working at Uncle LeetCode's small software company. Indeed, I hope one day Uncle Knobhead needs an in to a larger company she works for. This is exactly how referrals happen. It's just an inside track to surface the resume. He isn't in charge of determining over dinner if she is right for the role. I get referrals all the time. 99% of the time they aren't a fit, but I appreciate the networking that is happening in those referrals. This 100% came to say the same thing. You could have referred her by saying, "My niece has a CS degree and needs a job, but I've never worked with her, so I don't know her CS capabilities. However, some of her other fine qualities are XYZ." Correct. If, you want a positive ongoing relationship with your sister and her family. Wrong. Family status should not be used as a bribe to get someone to make decisions they would not make in their good conscience. OP's conscience is not calibrated properly, and I would point that out as you did. But let's not pressure people into making decisions on the basis of preserving relationships. Good old nepotism. Don't worry about hiring the best candidate for the job because my niece is looking. And while I don't know if she is any good, I do know that she is my niece. So that should be enough for you to hire her. Yep, no company has ever gone under with that line of thinking. Nepotism occurs when the person in charge of recruiting arbitrarily chooses the candidates based on familiar ties. OP doesn't look like he's conducted an interview in his whole life, so clearly not in charge of recruitment. No nepotism can exist there if he only refers her. While you are technically correct, the best type of correctness, I'd argue that even putting her forward for the job while feeling she isn't the best candidate would be a form of nepotism. Even though it doesn't fit the traditional sense of the world, I'd argue that it qualifies as the only merit he has for putting her name forward for the job is the fact she is family. This isn't fast, and the furious and in business family doesn't mean shh. Although you are correct, this technically isn't nepotism, but god dang is it close in my books. His employer makes the ultimate call. If they were apt to let this guy's feelings about how someone may or may not do as a candidate entirely determine their hiring pick, well, he'd probably be a lot more blasé about the whole thing. TLDR, there's nepotism, and then there's nepotism. Nepotism, okay, what if this one is? Thinking the best candidate always gets the job is naive. Would you rather hire your friend you know and respect to do a job for you that they're qualified for? Or would you fairly go through a bunch of randos and pick the one that you think will be the best for the job? Everyone has personal biases. You always have to work with people. If someone can vouch that you're a decent person, then you have a step ahead of someone that doesn't. It is what it is. I think if we all did our best to take care of our family members, the world would be a better place. Nepotism isn't about not selecting the best candidate, really, because that's kind of subjective unless you use a predefined scores and a blind interview, but rather about selecting unqualified candidates because of familial ties. You can have, by chance, an actual qualified relative and you could refer him/her. Nepotism would occur if you refer them for a position they're not qualified or for a better paid position that what their experience should get them, etc. Choosing the candidates you know among seemingly similar candidates not necessarily would be nepotism. There's no nepotism here because OP isn't in charge of the hiring. This is good old networking, and networking doesn't guarantee hiring either. Gone under? It's just one engineer. Calm the hell down. I know the question I asked is not related to the job, but I still think it is a good way to test one's intelligence. This is where your post falls apart. There is no way a random question is a good measure of one's intelligence in the abstract. Your choice to ask her about something unrelated to the job means you never even gave her a fair chance. Your judgment was poor, and your test was unsuited to the purpose. YTA. The idea is that if you can solve random puzzle-like problems, you are intelligent enough to find solutions to new problems. Since it is better to hire someone who can solve new problems when faced with them than someone who can only solve things similar to what they solved before. In fact, this is how big tech companies hire usually, and even where she worked previously has interview stages like that. Well, if they hired her, doesn't it mean she passed that stage? Yeah, but maybe she got lucky there and got asked a question she already saw or had prepared for. During pandemic time hiring, there was a lot of cheating and lowering of hiring standards too, due to Zoom interviews. Maybe you are stuck on your perceived superiority. Your niece should work elsewhere. Working with you would be a real delight. You have inferred your niece was not intelligent enough, only hired because the company lowered their standards and she cheated. You are a great uncle-aunt, YTA. You come across as, even if she answered it right, UB would like, well, you didn't answer it while standing on one foot, so no help from me. No, I would have been very impressed and definitely refereed her and even talked to my managers to find a suitable role once it opens. I did this last year for a friend's son when he got laid off, and did a similar thing where I asked him a leak code question and he answered right. Do you mean referred, or did she referee a game or something for you? YTA, and clearly not perfect either. Yeah, autocorrect is not perfect. So maybe you're not the gatekeeper for intellect and problem solving. So you're lazy and rely on something else to spell for you without double-checking your work? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it drilled in early and frequently that attention to detail is instrumental to programming? That's been my experience going through school for computer science thus far. Or are we just going to ignore that? It doesn't serve your gatekeeping, egotistical bullshit, so we don't have to pay attention to it. You are so aggressively the asshole, and it would be such delightful comeuppance if she came in, swept the interview, and eventually outperformed you out of a job. Love your comment. Only a bad carpenter blames the hammer. You're using a suboptimal tool for your user input? You should be embarrassed. Sorry, I just don't think you're qualified to carry a phone. You're going to have to turn it in to your provider. What made you think you were ready for something like having a cell phone if you can't type? Yeah. I don't believe you when you have already said she only got lucky and most likely cheated to get last job. And you can be like, no, I didn't say that, but everyone can read between the lines what you meant. I never said she did that. I just said that there was a lot of that during the pandemic and also overhiring and lowering of standards during that time, especially in 2020 to 2022, and for some companies, early 2023. Yeah, but maybe she got lucky there and got asked a question she already saw or had prepared for. Except you did say she got lucky, and following up your first statement about how she got lucky and got a question she already knew the answer to, with a blanket statement about lowering of standards and cheating during COVID, implies you only think she got her previous job because standards were lower or she cheated. Narcissistic, sexist, and trifecta. And how long did it take friend's son to answer? And how much workplace experience did he have? Ah, bingo, she's not good enough to refer while he was. It's assholes like you that continually drive women out of STEM fields. How do you know he hadn't heard it before? You keep writing refereed. Do you have any idea what that word means? Maybe your friend's son just got lucky, except when he did it, he was a young man instead, so it wasn't as threatening to you. Holy fuck, dude. Keep moving the goalposts. Yeah, but maybe she got lucky. What the fuck are you talking about? I pray you're never in management. So far up your own ass, you're coming out of your own throat. This is a telling response. Info. Why are you so eager to believe she's a faker and not intelligent? I love that your answer to, how do you explain her varying performance, isn't, perhaps I'm not actually capable of judging intelligence based on one single question, but rather, maybe she cheated or got lucky. No possible way you could be wrong. If you can get lucky, you can also get unlucky. But no, you're perfect at interviewing, so she's an unintelligent cheater. Oh look, a male engineer, implying that female programmers just get hired by luck. Never seen that before, Slash. To say this about anyone would be unfair in and of itself, and for an older person to say this about a younger woman is icky. but the fact that you said this about your own niece is truly vile. Downplaying someone else's achievements by attributing it to luck, lower hiring standards, or God forbid cheating smacks of someone who has never known what it is like to be underestimated. What a privilege that is for you. May you always be alone in your privilege. Your longing for recognition has clearly been misdirected into an eagerness to humiliate. Instead of following through on your worst instinct and taking your misery out on others, maybe try to investigate what it is that makes you unfulfilled. Couldn't she get lucky? You questions you asked? Like, it's pretty ridiculous to say that, BC. She can't solve a problem that's not at all related to her role. She wouldn't be good at her job. Do you like your niece? Wow, you really don't like your niece, huh? Maybe she got lucky there and got asked a question she already saw or had prepared for. How is that any different from providing the right answer to a LeetCode question? Why are you so dedicated to the idea that your niece is stupid? The idea is that if you can solve random puzzle-like problems, you are intelligent enough to find solutions to new problems. Did you allow her to use the tools and resources that she would use on the job to make it fair? Or are you expected to just come up with solutions out of thin air spontaneously all the time during your job? As a software engineer, I know that is not the case. You rely on your own intuition and problem-solving skills to some small degree, but you also tend to use feedback from coworkers and many other resources to find the best solution to implement, which is the actual job, not the intuition part. We don't do that for real interviews either. It is all on a whiteboard. I told her to do it on Notepad, on a laptop, or paper. And in any real interview, the interviewer gives hints and nudges them in the correct direction, which you seem to believe undermined your ability to contribute. I am aware, and I think there are some strengths and weaknesses to that hiring process, but you aren't administering it fairly or with good intentions. If you don't want to take any risks with a referral, then be honest about it. Don't design a test specifically to fail her out, which was obviously your intention. You are acting like the horrible software engineer stereotype more modern and reasonable members of the field are trying to move away from. The point is to solve problems correctly. The point is to see the thinking process. A single data point doesn't tell you much at all. That is where your whole argument collapses. 0 big companies spring tech interviews on candidates without notice, because those conditions have nothing to do with actual problem solving on the job. That's not why bug tech companies use LeetCode. It's to reduce the number of candidates quickly with some arbitrary task. Your logic falls apart even further when you take into account that the strongest predictor for success on LeetCode-style interview questions is whether or not you've seen that question before. Ordinarily, I'd attempt to be a bit more nuanced with my take, but here you need to take a ginormous step back. The person in question is your niece, not some random interviewee. By no means should you always give family leeway under any circumstance, but surely her being family would have given you some time to pause and think, should I treat her the same way an employer would treat an employee? Even if your answer was yes, a prospective employer would tailor interview questions for the role in question. Asking a job candidate a question with dubious relevance to the job scope is unfair and unwarranted. You did not treat your niece fairly, whether as your niece or as a potential candidate for a job in your organization. On top of being a horrible uncle, you are also a horrible representative of your employer, YTA. For the sake of your family and the people you love, I hope you find some grace and compassion. Look, man, during an extended interview process, it may be reasonable to have something like this as one part of a series of questions and criteria that, when taken together, paint a whole picture. If you've got 3 to 4 really good candidates, and some are much better in this area, then maybe that decides between them for who gets the job, etc. But that isn't relevant here. You were asked for a simple referral that would allow you to greatly help someone in need, that is a close family member, at little cost to yourself. You didn't want to refuse up front, so you decided to create your own interview process and base the entire thing on one single question that would likely catch most qualified people out. Then, even when she demonstrates she is capable of handling such problems and thinking you decide to declare her a dud just because she was only a bit better than you instead of miles better. Face it, you were never going to recommend her unless she was so staggeringly good that she wouldn't need the recommendation. And given that reality, it was unnecessary to make her jump through hoops to perform for you to allow you an excuse to say no to her. It just comes off looking like an impromptu circus act, NGL. She did solve it with some help, like everyone at every job does. Do you only work with yourself? 'Cause I can't see anyone wanting to work with you, willingly. Everyone is telling you that you were wrong for it. Own up to being wrong, or the asshole. You did good. Most people here don't know how tech companies works and the importance of this kind of test. Your comment has been removed because it violates Rule 1. Be civil.reddit.com/r/amethasshole/rules. Further incidents may result in a ban. Why do I have to be civil in a sub about assholes? Reddit.com-r and theft ads. Message the mods, reddit.com-message compose tatua if you have any questions or concerns. YTA. You deliberately set her up to fail by asking questions you knew weren't related to her work or the job in question. You wanted her to fail. You questioned her intelligence, WTF, and probably left her feeling humiliated and stupid. She's your niece, of course. She wouldn't have the same level of experience and knowledge of someone decades older than her. If you didn't have a desire to refer her, you should never have brought it up. You wanted to show off and score points to make yourself feel superior, and your sister is right. You are a raging AH. Actually, older people do much worse on these types of questions sometimes, as they have not seen new problems for decades and got used to using the same things and solving the same problems. There is no shame in not performing. I was given a question just like what I asked her in an interview with Meta, and that was how I came up with the idea. I did worse than her, and she at least got a correct solution just with suboptimal running time, and then got the optimal one later, after a hint. Your comments are practically gloating over her not answering your question in the amount of time you thought appropriate. Someone who has experience will often have more capability to problem solve. As someone with expertise in several fields, I often have to stop myself from describing it as easy when teaching it, because it is easy for me, but only because I have thousands of hours practice. If you didn't have any intention of helping your niece in her field, you should have not mentioned it at all. She's new to the industry, and instead of encouraging or helping her, you cut her off at the knees. Not exactly Uncle of the Year material. So what you are saying is he isn't very good at judging someone's skill in her line of work. I guess someone can't be good at everything. Maybe the OP can get some training on how to properly vet new staff and how to interview. It's not his fault he's bad at it. Sometimes people just don't know what they're doing. Oh, no, I think you misread. They're saying that they should be considered exempt from not being able to solve the problem because these types of questions aren't relevant to work. So someone who graduated a long time ago wouldn't be able to answer. But if you graduated recently, you'd have learned this one obscure concept in class, which, well, dynamic programming is not a general concept that is actually taught regularly. Unless you take specific classes, you may never see it. But for some reason, she performed inadequately, even though she performed better than them. If I'm reading currently, they're just scared that their company will fire them and realize fresh graduates are better value for the money than them. Took me till me third year at uni to understand that trivial didn't mean very hard. The solution to this second-degree non-homogeneous differential equation is trivial. Plus, he's getting off on explaining to everyone why he's right. Oh, that's weird. I assumed OP was a lady, but now I look back, their gender is omitted. That is not true. I was actually quite impressed, and she did better than expected for zero preparation, but just not quick enough. Did better than expected, so you always plan to say no. YTA. Yep, this dude has an insanely fragile ego. So, with prep time and an actual interview, she'd probably have passed. Still doing it, not quick enough, you sir are an AH. So she's smarter than you, and that's why you don't want to give her a reference. Got it. Tita. Oh, he also mentioned in another comment that he has referred a friend's son. I wonder what the reason for recommending the son but not the niece is. What could it be? What could it possibly be? You really are a prize arsehole, and a smug, self-aggrandizing one at that. Just not quick enough. Who are you to judge? Doubt you're in a hiring and firing role, and this was the only way you get to feel important. One goes into an interview prepared. She was not expecting to be interviewed. She was not prepared. She still got the correct answer to some obscure process that is not common. She rose to the occasion, she worked at it, and didn't give up. Rather than encourage her and mentor her, you dangle a carrot and then reject her. There was a day when you did not know it all. That took time and experience to gather. Rather than help her, you are pressing a boot in her face. It is difficult enough for females in STEM fields. You just gave her one more example of the types of jerks she is going to have to deal with throughout her career. Nice job, YTA. As a software professional with decades more experience and achievements than you, I can say this: better to be accurate than fast. Rework destroys budgets and schedules. If the Sonic movie isn't a good enough example, IDK what will be? ETA, or worse, Final Fantasy XIV 1.0. Rework destroys budgets and schedules and reputations. Yeah, I know. Why else do the dev team of F14 want to forget about their nightmares from 1.0 so hard? Yeah, my workplace experimented with Agile. Then months down the line, errors that were introduced early on took ages to repair. Rushing people to present something is stupid. Here's the best part: when you're at your programming job, you have access to a team to ask and brainstorm with on problems, and problems get solved faster. YTA, and just as bad as tech interviews that use candidates to solve issues for free during the interview panel. So be honest why you won't refer her. A software team manager who wouldn't accept behavior like this in the office. Edit, typo. You have access to a team to ask and brainstorm with on problems, and problems get solved faster. Off topic, but this is a genuine reason that office work is better than homework. You can just stop by someone's desk to shoot the breeze about a problem. So you gave her a problem you expected her to fail, and then even when she passed, refused to make the referral. That is obviously disingenuous, and you are obviously an enormous AH. So why did you turn her down? Not quick enough in a question that has nothing to do with the job. Did you ask her in fucking Choctaw as well to test her intelligence? YTAWTF is wrong with you. It's okay. I'm sure she thought you did better than expected trying to determine if she was a good fit. You did better than expected with little to no interview training, but you just didn't do that great of a job. I'm sure if you get training and practice, you can be more efficient and find a better way to assess prospective staff. Don't feel bad. Not everyone can be good at it. Keep trying, and you may be able to quickly come up with better questions. That pesky uterus of hers slowed her down. Maybe if she had a penis, things would be different. You asshole, you say you were impressed. She solved it. People spend weeks preparing for job interviews. She solved it on the spot. Where are you based exactly? US? Europe? It gives me peace to see that hundreds of people are in agreement that you're in the wrong here. Good God, you're up your own ass. Are you comparing her to you, your current work performance, or with a junior employee? Because if you compare her to you, YTA, you develop more efficient coding with the faster runtime, the more work experience you get. I hope your boss kicks you out of your job the next time you're not quick enough. Your attitude is disgusting. So you're mad and petty because she's better than you. Got it. Then what's the point? Sir, I hope this was worth destroying your relationship with your sister over. And yet she's still better than you. You're not God's gift to the world just because you're a barely mediocre software engineer with a dick between your legs. Humble yourself. So she performed better than you did at a formal interview, and yet she is not exceptional. What shit person you are. What an arrogant AH you are. You may as well just come out and say you are God's gift to programming, and no one will ever measure up to your greatness. Get over yourself. You're not as great as you think you are, and your lack of understanding and empathy is astounding. Your time limit is arbitrary, and you're an asshole. Senior software engineer here. You are a supreme asshole. These problems are given to see how an individual logics through the problem. Hints are acceptable to give. She has no time to study beforehand either. Usually when given these problems, most interviewees study for a few weeks to brush up before said interview. You said she did better than you when you yourself were given the problem. At an informal interview, she got to the solution, just not in 45 minutes. Sure, it's suboptimal. She's a fucking junior. God, I'm so glad we do pair programming problems at my job to test our candidates. Weeds out assholes like you that think puzzle problems are what best tests a candidate. Give here the damn recommendation and get off your high horse. I was given a question just like what I asked her in an interview with Meta, and that was how I came up with the idea. I did worse than her, and she at least got a correct solution just with suboptimal running time and then got the optimal one later, after a hint. So considering this, I know the question I asked is not related to the job, but I still think it is a good way to test one's intelligence. Your niece, who you should logically now consider more intelligent than yourself, isn't intelligent enough to work where you work. She might be more intelligent than myself, and probably is, although less experienced. She would be good enough to work at my company if she applied on her own, but I am not sure about whether she is good enough to be associated with my referral. I want to use my referrals for really exceptional people, probably better than myself. Definitely YTA. You seem worried that she may present better than you, and your colleagues may compare you unfavorably, and that's why you work so hard to avoid this referral. You fear you'll be working for Nice in a few years. That's a higher standard than you had an hour ago when you wrote that the downside was. But then if she performed badly after being refereed, it would reflect really badly on me. Why didn't you say in your original post that just being demonstrably more intelligent than you isn't enough? Who needs enemies when you have family like you? You're using your referrals wrong. You're right. She shouldn't be associated with your referral. It would only damage her career. Your level of critical thinking on what should count as a referral is quite questionable. A good referral is specific. You could easily say you never worked with her in software, but you know she's a hard worker. Words cannot adequately convey just how much of an asshole you are. So you who failed the same question were able to get the job at your workplace, and you think you deserve the job. And since you applied for the job, you technically referred yourself to it, but you don't think a person who was able to correctly answer the question doesn't deserve your referral. Weird boundaries. You must not like your niece. You should just have said that. Blessing in disguise for the niece. I won't work for some small-feeling big company with condescending of an uncle. If my uncle is like this, maybe it is the reflection of his colleagues too. Niece will go far, and not in her uncle's company. You are incredibly selfish. You come across as completely insufferable, exhausting, and honestly arrogant for absolutely no reason. She is your niece, and instead of helping her and preparing her for an interview, you decided to set her up to fail. Seems more like you're afraid she will outperform you at work, or you can't handle the fact that a woman, much younger than you are, is smarter than you and could easily pick up the skills she needs to work for your specific company. You went out of your way to make her feel small. Please stay out of her personal life and don't bother her with anything other than superficial conversations because you are absolutely horrible and she doesn't need someone like you trying to stomp her down rather than lift her up. You need to work on your maturity level because you're acting like a petulant child. Maybe you did your niece a favor. Maybe she will find a bigger company and she can show you what someone worthy of the job really looks like. I hope your inflated sense of intellectual superiority was worth damaging your relationship with your niece. I'm sure it'll be there to bring you joy and love, right? Oh, YTA. But this makes no sense. You said your question tests intelligence and she did better than you, unprepared, whereas you were in a job interview. Wouldn't that make her probably better than yourself? So you said that you'll receive hundreds of applications daily and hire only referrals, but you want your niece to apply the traditional way, leaving her with zero chance to be hired. She solved the problem you gave her after getting hint. What is normal practice in companies that more experienced ones are helping junior colleagues. She did it in the most optimal way, and yet you are still not satisfied. You could even pass her resume saying it's your niece. You cannot say much about her skills, but can say about character and let the interviewer do theirs job. YTA, massive one. So selfish. Holy crap. You are so the asshole. Your golden referral is so special that it can only be presented to geniuses. No, no, no. She is better than yourself. Now you're just too chicken shit to refer her because she'd clearly outperform you and your fragile little ego can't take that. Damn, you sound full of yourself. YTA, an aptitude test is fine if it's relevant, but you admitted the question you asked was unrelated to the job. How would you feel if at your next job interview they asked you who the 14th Prime Minister of Australia was, and they immediately ended the interview if you got it wrong, when the job you are applying for is just like the job you have no and has nothing to do with politics, history, or Australia? I hope you get laid off and can't get a job for a few years. Damn, you really are full of yourself. I feel sorry for people who are close to you and have to deal with this shitty personality and inflated ego. How many people have you referred? Why? But I am not sure about whether she is good enough to be associated with my referral. Your ego knows no bounds, huh? Major YTA. The OP doesn't owe a referral. It does seem you're setting almost impossible standards. She did better than you yourself. You don't know how good her skills are that are relevant to the job, and if she'd be a good fit within the team. These seem very basic criteria one should know before giving anyone a referral. So NTA for not giving the referral. However, there was no need to give her the pointless problem to solve. Removed. Your comment has been removed because it violates Rule 1. Be civil. waves.reddit.com/amytheasshole about/. If we've removed a few of your recent comments, your participation will be reviewed and may result in a ban. Why do I have to be civil in a sub about assholes? /wiki. Message the mods, reddit.com/compose/compose if you have any questions or concerns. It's understood that a younger junior dev would have less experience than you. Why is your level of experience the bar she has to beat? Your ego is showing. Dude, put it away. She's more intelligent than you, but not worth a referral. Your referrals are not worth that much, then coding cowboy. Please tell all the younger generation that keeps bugging me for help. I don't know anything. I mean, the alphabet only had 24 letters when I went to school. SYTA. Check your ego, dude. This literally has nothing to do with her ability as it does you wanting to just act like God at your job. Sit down, bro. And is Meta a high-performing software company? Oh wait, it's not. Well-known, yes. High-performing, no. And you did worse than her, and yet you were good enough to work at your company. So if she did better, she's more qualified than you. My dad never got a job this way. You are full of shit. Any evidence of this, or just shit you're making up to try to justify this moronic view? Wait. You did worse than her, but you can do the job. She did better than you, but you think she can't do the job? So she's already better than you, and you still won't refer her? Just say that smart woman make you feel insecure and drop the act. So she is better than you, which you said was your requirement to refer someone. And she impressed you getting it right with no prep, but she didn't meet an arbitrary deadline you made up to exclude her, so no referral for her. You don't work for Meta, though. You would be a god-awful hiring manager. Your comment has been removed because it violates Rule 1. Be civil, reddit.com/socials. If we've removed a few of your recent comments, your participation will be reviewed and may result in a ban. Why do I have to be civil in a sub about assholes? Asshole. Message the mods, reddit.message/compose if you have any questions or concerns. Just because you got asked stupid CS questions wholly unrelated to your job during the hiring process doesn't mean you need to perpetuate the cycle, especially with your blood relations. You honestly sound like a chore to deal with if this is the superiority complex you carry with you in life. Take a chill pill. You're not special for knowing a LeetCode problem. I know the question I asked is not related to the job, but I still think it is a good way to test one's intelligence. Dude, YTA, she's not interviewing for you. Holy shit. Hope you never need a favor from her. Some people act like they're never going to get old or vulnerable and are assholes when they are still young and in a position of power. When they finally need help, they'll act surprised when nobody is there to come to their aid. I know she is not, but I would like someone refereed by me to not potentially look bad. I ask simpler questions in actual interviews. You ask simpler questions in actual interviews. So, at this very informal stage with her, you asked her a question that is more difficult than usual. Do you actively dislike your family? Sounds like he's overly worried her lack of intellect, by his standards, will make him look bad. That's not what's making him look bad. Lol. Well, he doesn't want to look bad when she referees the company volleyball match and gets a rule wrong. As someone who works in tech and whose wife works in tech, I think he's more concerned with her lack of male genitalia. I actually get your point, but seriously, it sounds like no matter what she said, you were going to find some fault. I seriously can't tell if you just hate your family or just want to gatekeep your work and keep your two worlds separate. If you'd wanted to test her knowledge fairly, you should have arranged an afternoon you both were free, giving her some prep time, and asked her maybe 5 to 10 questions actually related to the work, with maybe one oddball question at the end to gauge her out the box thinking you are so hung up on. This comparing yourself to the big tech giants is just so bizarre. You do realize the big wigs at those companies are like top-grade ass, so why you thought channeling them at a faux interview at family dinner wouldn't make you just the same is baffling. Has 10,000% threatened by anyone coming into the job. He thinks he's God's gift to them or something. Senior at a small nobody SaaS company? Yeah, he's fucking threatened by everyone and doesn't want someone to realize he's dog shit. I know she is not, but I would like someone refereed by me to not potentially look bad. I ask simpler questions in actual interviews. Keep talking, you're just making it worse. And this is why internal people don't get promoted. Companies are absolutely willing to take some random person after meeting them for a couple hours, but as soon as you know someone, the bar gets so much higher. Is your niece going to show up and learn? If so, she doesn't need all the answers now. Is she responsible and a hard worker? If so, that's huge. Would you rather work with her than some random person that put together a great-looking resume but can't do shit? If you've been employed for a while, you know that 50% of hires don't make it long-term. Life isn't all about you. I'm not hiring you if you can't spell referred. Sorry, no hints on that one. Not to mention that he can't spell dinner correctly. Your head is so far up your ass, it's not even funny. You're a software engineer. You should certainly know you're an AH here. You don't judge a candidate's ability to do the job based on criteria unrelated to the job. You may as well have said, oh, you know Java and we need a Java developer. Let me test you in C++. It's one thing to ask someone related info or a simplified logic problem to understand their deductive reasoning. But you put her on the spot at a time she was not prepped and asked something, by your own admission, was outside the scope of what her duties would be of a person who had really entry-level experience. I hope one day I am the person doing your tech interview and you bomb as spectacularly as you set your niece up to. I have bombed worse than her on a similar question when I interviewed for Meta and couldn't understand the problem. That is where I got the idea of conducting such a test. Since then, I have started practicing these type of puzzle coding problems. There is no shame in bombing. Dear God, you're dense. You tested a recently laid off, much less experienced relative at a moment's notice after opening the door by bringing up open jobs at your employer, only to then effectively tell her, sorry, I'm not comfortable giving you a referral because you didn't pass my test, and your focus is on you bombing a similar test when you were going through an actual interview process. How many times are you going to brag that Meta rejected you? Maybe you're not the hot stuff you think you are. I love how OP thinks I got an interview at Meta and didn't get the job is some kind of flex. And it's not even hard to get rejected by Meta, LMAO. I can just submit my art portfolio and call it a day. No ifs, no buts. No, I don't want to work at Meta. Thank you very much. Hell, I interviewed and was offered through them, operations management, not coding, and turned them down. They didn't meet my current comp package. They're a big company with plenty of heads and just as much churn. So basically, you can't hack it at FAMG, so now you're going to demoralize her for no reason, just to make yourself feel superior. Got it. Thanks for clarifying. So you admit you need to be prepared for these types of questions and still sprung it on her without any time to prep, and are using it as an indicator of if she's smart enough to work at your company. Are you listening to yourself? I'm a senior software engineer with 6 years of experience in the industry. I still struggle with problems like these because I don't need to solve problems like that as part of my job. So she has to be smarter than you are in order for you to refer her to a job, no offense, not as innovative as the one you lost. How do you feel any authority to start implementing logic tests when you couldn't pass one, lol? With the amount of unearned confidence, I'm gonna guess you're a straight white middle-class male. There is shame in a referral hinging on making someone answer a question not related to the work she'd be doing. Who gives a shit how much worse you do? You're a pompous airhead who thinks getting rejected by Meta for shitty hiring practices is a flex. So she had a better job than you at a bigger company, iRobot, and you're jealous because you didn't even get through the interview. You are missing the point. Getting good at fake problems like these doesn't make you a good coder. It just makes you good at specific types of puzzle coding problems. Different people from different backgrounds think in different ways and will come up with different solutions to problems. You think there is a single correct solution. There is not. In fact, groupthink can be damaging, reducing innovacy, efficiency, and effectiveness overall. Plus, you are applying, 20+ years of experience, at a guess, over your niece. If she joined your company, nobody would be under any illusion that she would be anything but a junior programmer. Do you think that you have significantly improved your skills in the time you've been in the industry? How would you have done on this problem without your years of experience behind you? I've worked in IT for 30+ years and have done interviewing as well, sometimes including tests, but not rubbish like this. Some of the worst programmers you can get are the ones that think they are clever and write the most obtuse and unmaintainable code out there. What you should have done was to just say, here is my niece's CV. She got her CS degree a couple of years ago, so doesn't have much experience, and recently got laid off. Then, you should step the fuck back from the recruitment process. It is just as bad to sabotage someone as it is to give them an unearned benefit. This is what I've done for people that I can't personally vouch for, having never actually worked for. Your HR team will understand this very well. I have bombed worse than her on a similar question when I interviewed for Meta and couldn't understand the problem. That is where I got the idea of conducting such a test. Since then, I have started practicing these type of puzzle coding problems. So it's not a test of natural intelligence and problem solving at all. It's a test of how much one has practiced for those specific puzzles. So what the hell was the point in asking your niece such a puzzle then? OMG, I wrote my rating before I read your comments, but it is hilarious how you admit that you needed to train that specific kind of questions and wouldn't succeed otherwise as well, and that it is not even related to intelligence, but training. Did you want to embarrass her because you feel like she acted entitled by asking for your help? One way or the other, you are an A, and probably not a nice person to be around. There is no shame in bombing, but apparently there is some bullshit in success. Fuck YTA. Equating you going to an interview for presumably a senior position and bombing a question to asking a recent college graduate a question randomly at dinner who would be applying for a junior problem is the height of arrogance. It's been proven that Meta's ridiculous interview questions don't help. But you knew you were interviewing for Meta and prepared for questions. You asked her a question both on a whim and on the spot. Those are not comparable situations. If you had given her a test question related to the job, that would be reasonable. But you didn't. You came up with a random question you decided was a test of intelligence, totally unrelated to the job. She failed to answer in the time frame you decided would show she was smart enough. Good grief. The arrogance is breathtaking. YTA. OP sounds like someone who will dismiss all YTAs as, well, you're not a senior engineer like me, so what do you know? So let me say +1 to every word in this comment. And yes, I'm also senior software engineer, lol. Stupid algorithm tricks are not necessary knowledge for a junior developer on a small SaaS product, or for a senior engineer for that matter. And why are you essentially conducting a bad tech screen instead of just referring or not? You can refer without lying about what you know about the candidate. Just say it's your respectful, hardworking niece, or whatever, who you haven't worked with. Not assuming your background, Nestor, what do I know? But OP just seems the type to assume dissents are from people lesser careers. As another senior engineer, I second all of this. However, I probably would not give a recommendation to anyone unless I had worked with them fairly extensively and knew they would do well at whatever position I recommended them for. A random leak code question is not how you vet someone before recommending them for a job. If you recommend someone and they get hired, if for whatever reason they don't do well at the position, it will reflect badly on you and will most definitely strain your relationship outside of work. I definitely wouldn't give a rec, but in some places a referral is different and doesn't have the same implications. But yeah, if he just said no, I wouldn't call him TA. He's TA for being a judgmental AH who thinks he knows how to interview well and how to judge people's intelligence on ways that, wow, surprise, happen to align with things he's good at. Yeah, where I work, a referral essentially just gets the resume in front of a real person. That's how most referrals work, honestly. I just got a referral for a job. It's basically the only way to get an initial screening. You still have to pass the interview process. She was asking for a referral, not a recommendation. Maybe it's different in my country, but a referral is basically putting forwards a resume or CV for an internal jib so HR can slack off. Usually you get bonus if they are selected. You can refer someone for a job that has nothing to do with you. As another senior software engineer, this made me cringe. So many better ways this could have been handled. And side note, at the senior level, interpersonal communication skills are a pretty important part of the job too.